This is News and Views on News Radio 830 WCCO.
Good Sunday to you. Happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there. Welcome back to the 1 o'clock hour of News and Views. I have been anticipating my next guest for months. I am so excited to introduce you all to a woman who probably needs no introduction, Arianna Huffington. She is the president and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post Media Group and author of the new book, Thrive. Welcome to the show, Arianna.
Thank you so much. It's great to be talking with you.
Well, it is great to have you on the show. It's so many questions, so little time, so I'm going to get right into it. I've been reading your book, Thrive. It is amazing to me that you are talking about putting yourself on a schedule for sleep. Tell us about that.
Well, what happened, as you probably know, since I started the book with that story, is that 7 years ago, I collapsed from sleep deprivation, exhaustion, and burnout. I hit my head on the way down, broke my cheekbone, got 4 stitches on my right eye, and that started me on this path of trying to reintroduce into my life a lot of the things I had not been paying attention to, like sleep, time for renewal, and for connecting with my own inner strength and wisdom. And in the process, I found out that modern science has really validated a lot of ancient wisdom about the importance of sleep, which is really like a miracle drug in terms of our own well-being as well as our capacity to make good decisions. And we saw most recently what happened with a tragic accident with a Walmart truck driver who killed one person and seriously injured others.
Yes, are you talking about the Tracy Morgan situation in New Jersey? Yeah, it is amazing how much sleep really affects. And I also found it interesting that you're talking about, in our society, people get almost awards and kudos for being multitaskers and for just filling their time to the rim. But what you're saying is this is killing us, it's making us less productive, and it's literally causing disease.
Absolutely. And, now we have so many scientific findings about it and so much evidence that it's time to actually change this collective delusion that by being sleep deprived, by working around the clock, by being permanently tethered to our technology and our devices, we are more effective and more productive because we are not. You mentioned multitasking. We now have science that shows that multitasking doesn't really exist. It's task switching, and it's one of the most stressful things we can do. And in the book, I suggest 12 steps, and I deliberately picked 12 because I believe we are addicted to this way of living, and we can start with any step that most resonates with us. I mean, I started with sleep, going from 4 to 5 hours to 7 to 8 gradually, by adding 30 minutes a night. Or you can start with another step I recommend, which is to turn off your devices at some point at the end of the day, and as I say, gently escort them out of your bedroom so that they are not there tempting you if you wake up in the middle of the night, so that you can actually fully recharge and disconnect from your world.
Yeah, you do talk about, I'm talking with Arianna Huffington. She is president and editor-in-chief of Huffington Post Media Group. She's a nationally syndicated columnist and author of her latest book, Thrive. You do talk about how we really need to unplug. And I think it was something like, was it 150 times a day? Do I have that statistic right, that we're checking our handheld devices?
Exactly. We are basically perpetually checking our devices. And instead of leading our lives with us setting the agenda, we are allowing any message, any incoming piece of information to actually distract us from what it is that we want to do.
Right. But when you talk about this, though, Arianna, it is, when people, you're in a comfortable position. You've built a company. You're financially stable. What about people out there who they've got to work 3 jobs just to keep ends meet? How do they also get this proper sleep and unplug and not have to multitask? What's your best advice to them?
Well, I actually have a whole section in the book where I say that the more challenging the circumstance of your life, if you're trying to put food on the table, if you just lost your job, the more necessary it is to make time and prioritize taking care of yourself. The way they tell us on airplanes to put your own oxygen mask first, because bottom line is that how we respond to challenges and adversity depends on whether we are connected to our own inner strength, wisdom, and resilience. And if we are not connected to those, we are much more likely to be completely destroyed by adversity. And again, I quote very many specific examples, like the University of Chicago did a study about a big corporate downsizing at the Illinois Bell Company when 25,000 people were fired at once. And they followed them, and they found that 2/3 fell apart. And 1/3 actually thrived and went on to better jobs, went on to create their own businesses. So clearly, it's how we respond to circumstances that is the key, and that's a factor that we have more control over.
So when you talk in your book, you're really stressing what you call or propose the third metric of success. You say that people can have money, they can have power, but they're still not happy. So this third metric needs to include well-being that you've been talking a little bit about with us, wisdom, wonder, and giving. Some of those words, I mean, I believe you, but some of those words sound like these huge aspirations that aren't always going to be practical. So what would you say to sort of the cynics out there?
Well, I actually very much wanted the book to be super practical, because I agree with you. There's no point in just talking theoretically, because there's a lot of pain in the world that can be alleviated if people take very small, microscopic steps to bring some changes in their lives. And I feel everything I'm proposing is very manageable. It's very manageable to turn off our devices. We just need to deal with this addiction. It's very manageable to get 30 minutes more sleep, because the truth is that we all have more discretionary time than we let on. You know, somebody's watching House of Cards, right?
Right. I have to admit, I love that show.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying. It's a matter of prioritizing. It's a matter of saying, do I want to feel fully recharged when I wake up in the morning, and what am I willing to give up in order to do that? You know, we all carry way too much baggage in terms of anger, resentments, grudges from the past that are draining us and make us less effective in dealing with our current problems, as well as enjoying our lives and noticing small things that can bring joy to our lives that otherwise we just pass by. So there's a lot of things that we can do when we approach life that way, rather than feeling the victim of circumstances.
You know, and you do talk about how easy it can be to just add 30 minutes of sleep into each night. I was reading in your book about, was it with the editor of Glamour, you had a bet. You both were trying to keep each other for a month, kind of challenging each other to get that extra sleep. And she was actually setting an alarm for bedtime. Tell us about that. I found that terrific.
You know, what is interesting is that I love doing things with girlfriends because we support each other. Cindy Levy, the editor of Glamour, and I did that in 2011, and we learned from each other. I mean, I learned all her little tricks, like setting an alarm.
That's great. She has to go into the bedroom, right, to turn it off.
Yes, to turn it off. And because, you know, like being like a type A personality, she never misses appointments. So she felt if she made an appointment with sleep, she was more likely to keep it than if it was a movable feast that she kept moving to fit everything else in. Another thing that she did is she sent me a pair of pink silk pajamas, because she said, you know, if you don't sleep in your exercise clothes, as I used to, you know, in sweatpants and T-shirts, you give your body a message. This is turning down time. This is the time to actually go to sleep. And switch off, and a lot of little tricks like that. But the more important point here is that finding a Thrive buddy, finding somebody to go on this journey together, makes it more fun, easier, and you have a support system.
I love that, a Thrive buddy. I'm talking with the author of Thrive. She wants to help us all get that third metric to well-being and wonder and wisdom. Arianna Huffington is my guest. We're going to hold her over the break. We'll take a quick break, and then I'll take your calls. Give us a ring, 651-989-9226 or 866-989-9226. You can also text any comments or questions for Arianna to 81807. You're listening to News and Views. We'll be right back.
You're listening to News Radio 830. Broadcasting from the Land O'Lakes studio. WCCO.
Like the legend of the Phoenix.
Roshini Rajkumar back with you. Very exciting half hour. I'm talking with Arianna Huffington. I'm opening up the phone lines. If you want to ask her a question or share your sleepless story, give us a ring, 651-989-9226 or 866-989-9226. You can also text 81807. As you know, Arianna Huffington is the editor-in-chief of Huffington Post Media Group. She started that company back in 2005 and then sold it to AOL, but has stayed on as president and editor-in-chief. We're talking to her about her latest book, Thrive. She wants you, America, to get more sleep. Now, Arianna, it's true that your body will just go out. I mean, you cannot continue to fake it with 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night.
No, exactly. And I mean, I had my own wake-up call, but people have a lot of worse wake-up calls. I have now found connections between sleep deprivation, heart disease, diabetes, even Alzheimer's. So we are talking about a terrible mistake our culture has made for decades now of basically equating being really busy and sleep deprived as being important and having a great life, and the truth is very different. In fact, in the book I quote President Clinton, who said the most important mistakes I made when I was tired, and we can all identify. I mean, I can look back at my life, and a lot of the times when I missed the red flags, I didn't see the opportunities, I basically did not operate at my best because I was exhausted. So I think that there is so much more we can do, including being more giving and kinder and less reactive when we put our own oxygen mask first, to use that line that I love that they give us on airplanes.
That is a great line. It really says a lot, because you really can't help anyone else if you're dying and you know, you cannot help one person if you can't breathe anymore, which is just so true. So you are coming to the Twin Cities, and I know there's a sellout audience. Women Winning, which is a local organization, is hosting you at the Depot in downtown Minneapolis to a sold-out crowd. You're going to be talking as the keynote speaker. Can you give us a little preview of your message to this Twin Cities audience?
Well, first of all, I'm really very excited to be speaking. Women Winning is such a great organization, and I really want to talk about the fact that I believe we're now experiencing kind of a third women's revolution, you know, where the first was about giving us the vote. The second about giving us access to all jobs and the top of every profession. But the third one that I believe is necessary in order to complete the second is about women saying not just that we want to be at the top of the world, but we want to change the world. Because the way the world is right now is not working. It's not working for women, for men, for polar bears. And I think one of the reasons is because of this glamorization of burnout, of disconnecting from ourselves and our wisdom. And as a result, we see an enormous amount of leaders at the top of business, politics, media, who may be super smart and with high IQs, but they lack wisdom and as a result make terrible decisions.
Well, I've got a text coming in, Arianna, from Robbie Scance. He says that he loves what you're saying about sleep deprivation. He was having trouble earlier in his life, but it took a doctor to tell him what to do, and it should have been so obvious. So it sounds like, too, he was having some health issues.
Yes. Well, you know what? I'm so glad you read this text, because my biggest hope for this book is to help people prevent having wake-up calls like your listener who texted or like I had, because it's time for all of us to learn from each other's wake-up calls, to learn from each other's stories instead of having to go through painful experiences ourselves.
It's true. I have another listener's texting in. I am a firefighter. What do you suggest for emergency responders to wind down? Great question.
Oh, well, that's a great question, because in a way, in our lives, we all have times when we have no choice. Like you're a mother and your child is sick. You're going to pull an all-nighter. You have a deadline and you have to meet it. All these things are going to be much easier and much more doable and much more effective if you don't live your life that way. So that when you have a fire to put out at any hour, or you have to stay up with a sick toddler, you'll be able to do it without running on empty.
Arianna, we have an email question for you from Liz. What do you suggest, what do you recommend for employees who have managers who want quick responses to emails between 6 a.m. and midnight on weekdays as well as on weekends? There are lots of workplaces like that. What's your suggestion?
That's another great question. We are in the middle of a huge transition where 35% of American companies have introduced some form of stress reduction policy, including email policies, like we have at the Huffington Post, where all our employees know that when they finish their jobs, they are not expected to be on email. And if there is an emergency, again, back to the firefighting question, we will text them or we will call them. But at the same time, your listener is right. There are companies that are still following barbaric practices of expecting their employees to be on at all times. And I think there are a lot of things we can do here. One that I highly recommend is to actually, at the end of your day or at the end of your week, say, I finished, I'm going to be off email, but if you need me, here is my cell, call me or text me.
And really make it an emergency kind of scenario to your boss or something like that.
Exactly, and be respectful, but at the same time set some boundaries. And, there's a new listening now where there's enough being written about these issues, enough companies that are recognizing that when your employees are recharged, they're going to be better at their jobs. That it's not like a few years ago when this would have seemed incredibly novel.
Right. There are hard numbers. There are hard numbers
to prove it.
The
exactly.
productivity.
In the book, I have 45 pages of these hard numbers.
Right. I mean, the
scientific data.
Your data is really interesting because it should be a wake-up call, and I just wish more employers would take it to heart because we would be a less stressed-out nation. I mean, the U.S. is an obese nation. We don't get enough sleep, and we're losing our productivity. So you can't have burnout and good numbers.
Absolutely. And in fact, there's a real correlation between weight and sleep deprivation. Like, I think if you want to lose weight, the fastest way to do it is to get enough sleep. Because I find that there is nothing that turns me to food more than exhaustion and having to keep going, right?
Exactly. And that is very key. And it's also probably the best beauty secret, right, when you get more sleep.
Oh, absolutely, because that inner radiance and that glow that you get when you're rested cannot be duplicated.
You're right. Well, there's so many things. I'm talking with Arianna Huffington. Her new book is out, Thrive, the Third Metric. She wants you to focus on well-being, wisdom, wonder, and giving, and not just on money and power. These are more of the secrets, this third metric. She's going to be in the Twin Cities on Monday, June 23rd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Depot Hotel. I believe the event is sold out, although you can check in with womenwinning.org to see if they have any tickets left. But if you can't be there, she's also going to be at the Mall of America on Sunday, next Sunday, the 22nd, from 1 to 3 p.m. And you're competing with my show at that time, Arianna, but I will still plug that for you. That's okay. That's okay.
People can always keep the show on, right, while they're at the Mall of America.
Right. Well, and yes, they can. You're right. They can listen to us on their handheld, although I know you don't want them to be multitasking. But my quick question before I let you go, lots of talk. I mean, you have been in politics. You cover politics for your Huffington Post. Lots of talk about Hillary Clinton running for president. Do you have any bet or guesses on what she'll do?
Well, the chances are she's going to run, and of course it would be great to have a woman president. I wrote a piece after she left her job as Secretary of State, and she was asked what she most wanted, and she said what she most wanted was to be untired.
Yeah, I remember that.
She had exhausted herself. Do you remember that? And of course, she herself collapsed from exhaustion and had a concussion and a clot. So I hope that whatever she decides to do, she will do it in a way which does not impair her health, because she's a brilliant woman with a lot to give. And I think this would be a great example for others, that there is a way that we can continue contributing without doing it in a way that is detrimental to our health and our decision-making.
Right. So you don't think her time has passed. You do think she would still be viable as a candidate?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Arianna Huffington, for spending part of your Sunday with us. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you in the Twin Cities on June 23rd. You have a great Sunday.
Thank you so much. You too. See you next weekend.
All right. Thanks so much. When we come back, we're going